This is a new day. It's a day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice. Let us be glad in it. Let us sit for a spell and let a word of God theme come into our minds and our hearts as we begin a new year together. And I'm coming to you from the second chapter of Mark's Gospel. Early on, we get a window into a dynamic of how Jesus interacted and moved with the people, his impact, and the energy that arose from him being with the folks, the people. Jesus, by the sea, crowds gathering around him as he teaches. He's walking along, sees Levi at the tax collector booth, and he says, "Come and follow me." Levi gets up and follows him. And later, at Levi's home that night, around dinner, Jesus with his disciples and other tax collectors, and as the outside looked in and saw the Pharisees, saw Jesus there with tax collectors and sinners, and they asked his disciples, why does he eat with these kinds of people? And Jesus heard them, and he says, and this is his first kind of word picture, was that of a healer of the sick. Those who are well have no need of a doctor, but those who are sick, they welcome me. For I have come not to call the righteous, but the sinner. And then fast forward a bit, John the Baptist's disciples and the Pharisees are in the midst of fasting, and the Pharisees notice, and others notice, and ask the disciples, why do John the Baptist's disciples and we Pharisees fast, and your people, your followers of Jesus, don't fast? And again, Jesus responds, and this was a second kind of word picture metaphor, that of a bridegroom at a wedding. The wedding guests cannot fast while the bridegroom is with them, can they? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they're not fasting. The day will come when the bridegroom is taken away, and then they'll fast on that day. And then he offers another word picture metaphor, that of a local seamstress shop, perhaps. No one sews a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old cloak. Otherwise, the patch pulls away, the new from the old, and a worse tear is made. And he goes deeper and offers another picture for us, a metaphor. No one puts new wine into old wineskins. I tell you, the wine will burst the skins, and the wine will be lost, the wineskins will be lost. New wine is put into fresh wineskins. Well, this story inside of a bigger, larger picture or story, the big picture being Jesus interacting with the crowds and their enthusiasm and their welcoming of his message and his life in the midst of their present needs. The story inside that story is the game is changing right before the old eyes, right in front of the acolytes, to the old system, the old attitudes. And Jesus is not apologetic. He's not shrugging his shoulders and wondering and saying, I don't know why people are responding so enthusiastically. No, John the Baptist and his disciples and the Pharisees, they're part of a very legalistic interpretation of the laws of Moses. And Jesus is saying, in the midst of these people, the bridegroom is with them. Can they do anything other than celebrate? He's offering a different attitude, a different feeling, an enthusiasm, which is inspiring for us as we turn the corner on an old year and enter into a new. And I'm reminded of a funny story, that of a comedian, Tommy Dreesen. He tells this in his book, Still Standing. He toured with Frank Sinatra for 14 years. He was the comedian who would be a sort of a warm-up act before Sinatra came on stage. Frank Sinatra toured or traveled with an entourage, buddies like Roger Moore, Gregory Peck, and Tommy Dreesen, Sammy Davis Jr., and many other names that some of you remember. And Frank announced on a Saturday evening, we're going to church tomorrow. And on the way there in the morning, those who were Catholic, for they went to a Catholic church, Frank says, Tom, we're going to read from the lessons from the Bible. And Tommy said, I thought, why? And he explained, well, they let lay people read lessons of the day. And Tommy Dreesen said, I had to follow Gregory Peck. And when Gregory Peck reads the gospel, people say, didn't he write this? What a voice. At the end of the sermon, at the end of the Mass, the priest normally says, go, the Mass has ended. But on this occasion, this time he said, before we go, some of you may have seen comedian Tom Dreesen on The Tonight Show talking about his Catholic school upbringing, and I just wonder if he'd perhaps honor us with a joke. And Frank leans over to Tommy and says, get up, tell him a joke. I had to go to the lectern, he says. I couldn't think of a joke that would be appropriate to tell in a church to save my life. But suddenly there's this story, and he says, there's a priest in the Midwest. In the middle of Mass, he turned and says to the congregation, I'm the priest in this parish, and I make $200 a week. And that's not enough. And then suddenly, out from the sacristy came the bishop. And he says, I'm the bishop of this diocese, and I make $400 a week, and that's not enough. And then there's a voice coming from the organ, and suddenly the organist's voice is saying, I'm the organist in this diocese, and I make $2,000 a week, and there's no business like show business. I turned around, says Tommy. I sat down and Frank said, good joke. Let's get the hell out of here. New wine. New joy. You're free to maybe miss the point I'm trying to make, perhaps analyzing the joke. Two voices kind of coming from fear and scarcity, and then that curious third voice, right in front of old eyes, a religion that Jesus ushers in that had zip and zing and zang and zest to it. The Pharisees of Jewish history had made a religion out of don't do this and don't do that. But to know Jesus is to taste new wine. To be free from the wineskins of Jewish legalism. The mood of Jesus was like a taste of new wine. The mood of discipleship is like a wedding. I've been to a lot of weddings. You have too, I'm sure. And we all know that at a wedding, those are the happiest of occasions, a time for laughing and singing and smiling and enjoying. It's like tasting new wine. So let's think about a little bit of our rolling with this Jesus into this new year, and what is the new wine for us to put away the old and greet the new.